The day is July 17th, 1985, the site of the first World Helicopter Championships. 37 competitors from 17 countries have shown up at London, Ontario, Canada to compete for the title of World Champion. Each pilot is of the highest level of skill and a champion pilot in his respective country. The first thing you might notice at an event like this is that the equipment has become very sophisticated. So before we get started with the competition, let's get a little background from the inventor of the RC helicopter.
Okay, we're speaking with Dieter Schluter. He's known as the father of radio-controlled helicopters. He developed and flew the first helicopter in 1969. Dieter, can you tell us a little bit about that first helicopter?
Yeah, I made the first helicopter in the late 69 here, and I started in the winter time. It was very cold when I made my first flights in a hangar, an airplane hangar inside, and then I went outside. It was very windy out there, and I must say then I made my first 5 seconds and 10 seconds, and it was 30 seconds. That's, believe me, it's a very long time. And I was very happy in these days, and then I made my first radio control model with a fuselage. This was a well-known Bell Hui Cobra. And I flew this in the first months of 1970, very successful, but only in hovering in the first time. And because at first when you fly a helicopter, you have to start with hovering, because this is a maneuver on the beginning of a flight and on the end of a flight. And when I could hover the model for several minutes, then I started flying forward. And this was, believe me, this was very hard, because then the model was very fast, and I had no chance to bring it down first because I did not know how to do it. The model climbs and climbs and climbs and more up in the sky, and then I had to idle the engine down, and the model doesn't come back again, and then it comes too fast, and I had to put a throttle in again, and so it was for me a fight for about 5 minutes before I get the model down, safe and nothing broken.
Did you crash a lot of helicopters in the beginning?
Oh yeah, in the beginning, yeah. Yeah, I crashed a lot of helicopters, because you cannot say in these days that it was a real helicopter. It was a beginning. These are test models, because in these days we had nothing for helicopters. There were no rotor blades on the market. Nobody knows how to make rotor blades. We didn't have a ball link, something we have in these days, and nobody knows the size of the gear ratio or the size of the main rotor blades and the diameter of the main rotor system. It was absolutely nothing known, so I had to start by zero.
Why do you think you were the first? Did people not believe it could be done?
Oh, I don't know why. Maybe I had a little bit luck, but all in all I think it was a combination, because I was a motor car engineer, and before I started making helicopters I flew very well fixed-wing airplanes, so I know many things about flying and fixed-wing airplane and how to handle a radio control system, all these things. And then I had a little workshop with necessary machines so that I can make my parts myself. So it was a combination of an engineer and a parts maker and a flyer, and all this together.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the workings of a helicopter. We have a model of your helicopter here.
Yeah, we have a helicopter here, and okay, just to explain how a helicopter flies. We have an engine with an automatic coupling system. If the engine speeds up, the main rotor starts turning around, and these 2 blades are working like wings on a normal airplane, and they are turning around, and so they get lift up, and then they lift up the whole helicopter. But this is only one maneuver you have to do, but then you want to fly forward. That means if the helicopter is in hovering position, then you have to bring your main rotor system, the wide main rotor blades here, in a forward flying position, and then the model flies forward. And if you make it straight, the model stops, if you do it right. If not, if you stop too much, the model goes backwards to this position, and it flies backwards. And so you can fly also sideways, to the left, to the right, or maybe 45 degrees in this way or what. So helicopter can fly in every direction, and then he can climb up and down. And then also, in addition to that, a helicopter can turn around the main rotor system, like we do here. So, and again back. Oops. So, and all this is controlled by a radio control system, and you have, in the same time, you have to control 4 different maneuver, 4 different things. up and down, forward and backward, right and left, and then turning the fuselage. And this is done with a stick. This stick means forward, backward, right and left. And this means turning the fuselage left and right. And this is for climbing with a helicopter up and down. That's all.
Monday was a day of practice with competition beginning on Tuesday. Tuesday also brought high winds which blew one direction for the morning and then switched 90 degrees, leaving many pilots flying in a crosswind. This caused problems for many pilots. There are 4 compulsory maneuvers: a hovering M, a hovering circle, a horizontal 8, and landing. There are 2 landings to choose from: a 45-degree descent landing or an auto rotation. Then there are 14 optional maneuvers to choose from. Total number of maneuvers in a flight is 8. Here we see Nakajima flying the observation maneuver. The observation is a complex maneuver with a K factor of 10. The judge scores the execution of the maneuver between 0 and 10, and then the score is multiplied by the K factor. The more difficult the maneuver, the higher the K factor. This is Cliff Hyatt flying the hovering circle.
And what's your name and where are you from?
My name is Kies Verplanken from Holland.
Okay. And how long have you been flying helicopters?
I fly about 8 years helicopters. I started to build my own helicopters. Oh, I like it very much.
Okay. And is it taken a lot of practice to prepare for this competition?
Yes, it needs a lot of practice. I started practicing beginning this year very hard. And also last year I did the European Championships in Holland. I had the 8th place.
8th place, very good.
Thank you.
What do you think of the maneuvers that they've selected for this contest?
They are the same for also last year and from 2 years ago also, you know. But you can select your own maneuvers. You have 4 obligated maneuvers and 4 optional maneuvers. You can choose from 8 maneuvers totally.
Okay, what was your selection for the optional?
My selection for optional is the loop, split S, the roll, and the auto rotation.
Okay. Let's talk about
a rolling stall turn also.
a rolling stall turn. Okay. Let's just talk about the loop for just a second. Maybe you can tell us what the difficulty in performing a perfect loop.
Normally you had to make a loop as in 10 meters diameter, but I prefer to make it bigger because it's much nicer for the jury, and it's difficult. You have to fly horizontal and then take it up, not too fast, and make a big circle. At the top you give a little negative pitch, and then give just a little pitch extra, and then not a full pitch again, but otherwise you go up again. So then on half gas you go horizontal. At the same height you have to come out. That's very important.
The auto rotation, it's something that looks very simple, but I understand it's a little more difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult. You had to make now an angle. Doesn't matter what angle it is, 45, depends on the wind. If you have a hard wind you can go vertical down. And you will not change the helicopter. If the helicopter is like horizontal and then you move, because you're too far, you're pulling backwards. And then you have the tilting, the head, a shaft bends backwards. And then they don't want to see that. You want a flat line all the time, tilt down. That's the difficulty. Also it's difficult, if you're flying, you have to keep an eye on the helicopter and also on the center where you have to land. So you have to be 2 eyes, you know, one like that and one like that. That's a difficulty.
And how can you practice? It just seems like if you don't get it right.
No, you have to practice many times. That's the only thing. If you think what you have to do, it's too late already.
Taya of Japan, as well as a few other pilots, do not seem to be affected by the crosswind. Let's watch as Taya holds his helicopter against the wind in his first round of competition. Taya pulled in the highest score for the first day with this flight. He earned 1,382 points for his 8 maneuvers. By the end of the first day of competition, Taya was in first place, with Lynn Mount of Great Britain in second place by only 17 points. Nagatsuka of Japan held third place. Here we see Lynn Mount performing an auto rotation and receiving the first 10 from a judge at this contest. By Wednesday, the winds had diminished and pilots worked out any final bugs in their equipment. Also, the initial nervousness of flying in world competition was all but gone. Pilots began to turn in much higher scores as they worked up to their peak abilities. How do these pilots spend their time in between rounds? Flying helicopters and putting on demonstrations for the crowd. Here we see Lynn Mount of Great Britain letting off tension after intense competition.
Okay, we're speaking with Pedro. Pedro, what is your last name?
Pedro Caldente.
Okay, and where are you from?
I come from Mallorca, the Balear Islands in Spain.
Okay. How long have you been flying helicopters?
Well, fly helicopters only 1 year ago, but it is 3 years ago that I have helicopters. But I have two. I was 2 years with my helicopters broken every time, because I am on my own for to know all this, you know.
So you virtually taught yourself how to fly?
Yes. I am started on my own to fly with many crashes.
How many people in your area fly helicopters?
Well, in our area, he fly John, the other Spanish pilot, and me. Only our two in our area. But in our country, fly around 6 people.
When you did that roll yesterday and the loop, everybody cheered. Why is that?
Well, because the day before yesterday, I make my first loop. I take 2 loops without crash, you know. And yesterday, in this World Championship, I take my first roll and my first split S, this one, because the other pilots is all the time with me and say me, you take this, you take like this, and
so they the day before they actually taught you by explaining how to do it,
yes,
how to make those maneuvers.
And the day before yesterday, all the night I take in my bed all the night I take the roll, you know, like this, and no matter.
Wednesday evening, Taya was still in first place. His score for the day, 1,691 points, the highest for the competition. Ewald Heim of Germany has taken second place, and Robert Gorham of the USA has moved into third place at the close of competition on Wednesday. By the end of the competition on Friday, there was no doubt that Taya would finish in first place. And there was no question that he earned it with a final score of 4,691 points. He was flying a TSK Augusta.
Taya, you flew very well in this competition, and the wind did not seem to be a problem. Why is that?
大会、風が強かったんだけれども全然問題なく飛んでたみたいなんですけど、その辺はどうしてでしょうかと私としてはまだ十分とは思ってないけども、もしそう見えたなとしたらローターの回転が低かったからだろう。I think due to low RPM of rotor blades.
Second place was Ewald Heim with 4,619 points, flying a Heim Star Ranger. Third place went to Atsushi Nakajima of Japan with 4,325 points, flying a Colt Long Ranger. In fourth place was Nagatsuka of Japan with 4,311 points, flying a Colt Long Ranger. Fifth place was held by Robert Gorham of the USA with 4,242 points. He flew a GMP Cobra. And sixth place went to Uli Müller of Switzerland with 4,201 points, flying a Graupner Bell 222. The top performing teams were Japan in first, USA in second, Germany in third, and Great Britain in fourth. We would like to take this opportunity to thank Walter Naus, contest director, for his determination to bring this contest to a reality and making us welcome to the first World Helicopter Championships. We would also like to thank the Model Aeronautical Association of Canada and Daniel Deneen, whose help made it possible for us to cover this event.